track guide, this time in Brazil. Before we start, two general tips. So, in Brazil, you will need to make a decision. Either you place your bets on the fastest part of the tracks, mainly Sector 1 and Sector 3, and approach it with a low aero setup, or you will make the trade-off on Sector 2 by using a higher aero definition and tackling that sector with optimum efficiency. The setup I'm about to show you is for the second option. Generally speaking, I think that the bet usually made by fastest drivers is indeed on more arrows so they can extract everything from corners and corner exits. And if done properly, sometimes this can not only counter but even be superior to lower arrow settings. However, you should always go with your best option. If you feel comfortable with the lower arrow setup, then go for it. The second tip on Brazil, you will maybe, while trainings mainly on time trial for people who do it and try to beat their laps, sometimes you may come across a lap where you feel that you have tackled the corner perfectly and yet you lost a lot of time. This has an explanation. On Brazil, it is perhaps the place where racing line is so much important. You can gain a lot of time from taking the shortest path possible, taking advantage of every inch, every curve, every piece of space you can use to cut some time off your lap. So if you sometimes this happens to you and you don't understand why, it's probably the racing line. So here in Brazil, apart from all the inputs, really try to learn the best possible racing line. Because if you do it, if you cut those corners on the optimal spot, you can even compensate somehow your inputs. Because if you fail the racing line, a perfect input on braking and on throttle application will not help you. Okay, let's go through the setup. High difference between wings, as you probably know by now, to allow a more sharp turning. 50-50, very calm and calculated around the corner exits. The usual here, this does not fall behind the usual settings too. As you can see, a little more height on both front and rear, and this is precisely to take as many curves as you can. 155 and lower pressures to get that optimal traction. Okay, let's see the fastest lap. It is not a good lap, although it's on the second 7, which is a good mark to attain here. Generally speaking, this is not one of the this is actually one of the worst laps I did. I will try to improve it. So let's go on the for the replay. Okay, even before the beginning, the corner behind before this stretch is a crucial point of either the lap you are taking and the lap you will begin. So the key point of this lap is indeed that corner. Let me try to remember the number. So sorry, I forgot to take note of the number, but uh, it's just a matter of you remembering the last point of the lap where you brake, because from that corner it's a flat outburst until the end of the lap. Okay, so let's begin. So for your flying laps, start the laps on your right side, but take this note: when you are finishing your flying laps, you should take as much as you can on the left. Okay, so general tip around Interlagos: if you are struggling around this track, review your braking points. This track brings, I don't know why, but it happens, brings with it a very big temptation to brake later than you should. And yeah, like we mentioned before, if you need to find optimal racing lines, you cannot miss your braking points, because your struggle on the corners will always be to compensate the mistake on the braking zone. So on Interlagos, on some corners, mainly this one and others I will mention, try to brake earlier than you think, because it's not just because you are making the corner by braking late, that doesn't mean you are doing a good corner. So for this first part, very tricky part, do not brake, at least my advice would be for in that way, but if you can do it, perfect. But avoid the temptation to brake on the 50-meter board, because it will make you miss the first apex, and this part is all about traveling the apexes. So I would say braking just after the 100-meter board, and we'll go corner by corner. Okay, as you can see, you have to be able to throw it on this first corner. Try to do it on fourth gear, and you'll have two concerns here: getting this apex and preparing for exiting the final part of the Senna S already on full throttle without losing your rear or invalidating your lap. Around here, you need to be able to return to the throttle fully, take the correct racing line without invalidating. There is a big risk of invalidating here. So if done properly, you will be able to nail the exit of the corner on top of this curb. Then it's all about that shortest path. Try to keep it to the left as much as possible. By the way, my paddle shifter failed. I don't know why. So you probably heard gear over revving. It's not supposed to follow. There's no reason to over rev on that part as soon as you, that was on fifth gear. So as soon as you hit the revving point, shift to sixth. So that was a mistake from the lap caused by the wheel. Okay, this one, another place where temptation will be high to brake later than you should. If you overshoot the 100-meter board, it's already too late. You will not fail the corner, but you will not be able to cut it as you are supposed to. You can brake on, just a moment, please. Here, this little piece of tarmac, it's actually a good reference point. Looks too early, but in Interlagos, uh, if a breaking point looks too early for you, it it's probably the best breaking point. Once again, it's all about taking that curb as much as you can, work with your gears to gain rotation, and this one is all about putting your power down to get the exit as perfect as you can, because the next stretch will be a flat stretch. And as you know, before flat stretches, if you are not taking the optimal exit, you will hurt your lap during that part. Once again, all about racing line here. Keep close to the left and we'll prepare for the next part, which is a very tricky part of this circuit. With high aero configs, you will be able to do this without touching the brakes. I couldn't make up my mind if it's best to lift and keep it on seventh gear or downshift to sixth. I chose to downshift to sixth because it felt that it gained more power uh, on the middle of the corner. Try to see videos from pro drivers, see how they do this. But here the key will be to not touch your brakes. From this point on, you should be able to take it flat if you have a higher aero setup. Another place where invalidation is at hand, if your car oversteers, you will fail the track limits after the second right corner. Okay, so for this one, no obvious braking points, so you have to do this by memory. You need to apply a hard braking and then start to trail brake, downshift third, and take it across that curve. This is all about mantling curves. That's why you saw the ride heights a little higher than usual. Also, for this corner, you need to keep in mind the preparation for the long left turn, which is also a crucial part of your lap, where you'll probably once in a while lose a lot of time. Starting here, your focus will have to be on hugging the left curve as much as you can and try to return to the full throttle a little around the middle of the corner. You can work this corner with your throttle, give it small taps to make it traverse the corner. You you should brake a little, but not that, just a small tap, just to keep it on that spot close to the left curb. And this is done on third gear, but as soon as you can, upshift to fourth to prepare the exit. I think this was a low point of my lap. I definitely feel that I have failed this corner due to returning to the throttle later than I should. This one is also very tricky. This kind of begins to swerve a bit to the right, and then you have the braking zone. You should not ignore the right turn, but you need to gain as much angle as you can for the tight right turn, which is done in third gear. You are supposed to take a little more curb here, one of those places where your lines will determine a lot if you gain or lose time. Also, as you can see in Brazil, most of the corners do not have clear braking references. So this one I will advise you to repeat and repeat and repeat so your muscle memory can remember the braking points. This one, you keep it on the left and you need to do it flat. On the race, you have to monitor closely your tires because at a certain amount of wear, snapping the rear becomes a hazard here. So keep it on the end of the stint, keep it, pay very close attention to how your car reacts on this corner. If you're not supposed to touch the brakes, but if you feel it going loose, then you need to lift a bit of the throttle. Okay, so the key point of the lap, this corner will dictate everything. Another corner where it's not clear where to brake, I would advise you to count those AWS logos on the floor, and if I'm not mistaken, the first to last logo is a good spot. As per the corner, third, fourth gear are viable options here, and I think third will give you more power on the exit, but it will also make it harder to hold your rides. So this is one of those corners where you have to feel the car kind of getting a kick on the rear to go faster, and this feeling can be achieved by nailing the traction zone and the throttle input. So focus on the exit, not so much on the corner entry, although you have to obviously find a great the best um, apex for this corner, but a good exit here will make up for it. A little advice here, this one can be mental, but at a certain point, which is I believe I believe this was almost at the edge, although it felt safe, a little more to the right, and the car would have snapped. So if you when you are returning to the throttle, you do not have your left wheel on that line of the track. If you have it to the right of that line, do not punch in the throttle because the car will look safe, but it will spin on you. From here, it's all about taking the shortest path possible with your foot planted on. Here, try to cut as much as you can, but without invalidating. Kind of how you do it in Jeddah. Jeddah also needs to this cutting between that striped zone that separates the track from the pit lane. Jeddah also needs that. Scene here is the same too. So keep it as much as you can to the left. Your lap should be finished on the left side of the track, closer to the wall as you can. Okay, so here it is. Hope you have a great one in Brazil. Usually, very, very good races are done here, and this one will be no exception. Cheers!